All right, good afternoon, traders. And let's jump right in here. We'll go through the volume dot settings. Now, we've been doing these afternoon sessions here, easy to say, to go over a lot of things that you've requested. The heat map, how to relate to candlesticks, etc. We'll continue to do these as long as they're creating some value for you guys, and we have a nice recording afterwards. So let's jump in and we'll go through it here. Got to go through the disclosures. General disclosure: all Bookmap limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. The risk disclosure: trading futures, equities, and digital currencies involves a substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. All right. So let's jump in and see what's going on here. We're looking at the S&P, and boy, what a day. Crazy price action. If you saw the webinar earlier today, and all over the place. Higher time frame, though, we are below that 42.50 area. Now, what does the volume tell us, or what are the volume dots in the first place? Well, there's only three. We'll close up the indicator panel. There's only three elements on this Bookmap chart, and these three elements are volume, the dots here showing the aggressors, the market buy and sell orders, the heat map, which we covered last time, which is the liquidity, all derived from the order book, the current order book and current market, but then projected historically on the chart. So you can see these areas where there's buying interest, buyers down here, as you can see around this 1125 area, and bidding up, and 11 at 1125, but 4225 and 4230. And then we also have best bid and offer on here. All right, so just three elements on this Bookmap chart, and we can take each one off here and show you that the best bid and offer here, and that's just giving you the insight to the price structure or the price action. Now, the second element here are the volume bars, and we'll also add the volume dots. The volume dots here show the aggressor. Very, very simply, this is the market buy and market sell orders. Let's zoom in here and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, this is all based off of our education and our educational course. So our best bid and offer is here. The best offer is the red line. The best bid is the green line. And that's the the level one information here. Now, a green dot is a market buy order. They cross the spread, and they're transacting and taking liquidity off of the best offer here. Okay, so these are the traders that can move the market. In fact, the best offer, maybe it comes up here, way up here, several ticks away, or maybe way up here. There needs to be an aggressor that takes the other side of that trade, and they cross the spread. The spread could be very wide. With the S&P E-mini here, you can see it's one tick wide. Sometimes you'll see it widen out to a few more than that in the current market, but very rarely. Here you can see the down at microsecond level, microsecond level here, there is a bit of a spread. It was 2 ticks for a very short period, very, very short period. That's how quickly it's filling in. All right, so anyway, the point is that it is the aggressor here crossing that spread that makes the next price point. Okay, so in this case, the next price point was the same price point here by the aggressors. Okay, these are market buy orders. The best offer went up a tick, but the next transaction was a market sell order, but at the same price level. Okay, so price didn't move, but the best bid and offer did, and this is when you'll see, like in your time and sales floating by, that you'll see a change in the color, but not the price level. right? So let's see, we have some questions immediately here. From Wall Street Warlord, can we locate the Bookmap user group online? Yeah, I mean, you can reach out on our forum, and you can also reach out on our Discord room for anything that you're looking for. What is the mathematical equation that creates the bubble size? Well, these are simply from the data provider here. Okay, but the size of the trade is what gives the reference here, like a bigger dot here. This is a market buy order, but is bigger than this other market buy order here. So we can use this data tip tool to hover over or look in the lower left hand corner to get insight here. So this was for 3 transactions of 3. This is also 3, but this one here is 1. Right, so that's what it's showing. Okay, and and then we have another one here, and that's also for a transaction of 1. That's a market sell. All right, and that's it. So the let's just zoom out a little bit more and start to understand some things. All right, so you can see this, like I said, this kind of reference to and the color here. We know these are market sells because they're hitting the bid and they're taking price lower. The size of the dots is what gives the volume reference here to the other dots in here. So this is a lot more selling compared to the buying in here, right? So we have a reference. And in fact, the buyers take it a little bit higher back up to here again. However, the sellers in this little move here basically remain in control because the buyers aren't able to take it back up above. Okay, so this is just understanding microstructure in here, but all of this kind of stuff matters. And we start to zoom out on higher time frames. It is the same stuff. All right, so anyway, now we know what these dots are. Market sell orders are the red dots, market buy orders are the green dots. And again, they move price. Okay, if they take enough liquidity off of the best offer, for example, they will move price up. Now, what also helps the movement here is the other side of the trade. Where are they providing liquidity, right? But it's these guys that actually move the price. All right, technically. Okay, so let's just now we know what it is, and we know what the reference is here too. Okay, so when we look at volume that is relative volume, well, we can see that there's more sellers here in this move here, or in this view here, and they're moving price lower. Okay, so pretty simple. There's all sorts of settings in here though that we need to go through and start to understand it. So let's jump into that. Go up to studies configuration here and click on volume dots. Now there's another way to get to it as well. You can just right click on the volume dots and go to volume dot settings here. Okay, you'll find you can use that with many other items as well. Okay, so now in the volume dots settings, well, first let's go through the volume display options here. We can look at two-dimensional dots. We can look at 3D bubbles. We can look at total volume. Now this is important here. This is what we've had for many years, total volume. And what that is showing is, every single transaction. And there's so many transactions in some of these markets, like the S&P E-mini, that we zoom in here and you'll see these pie displays. Okay, it's a volume dot, and you can see the majority of it here, for example, is buying. About 2/3 of it is buying, and about 1/3 of it is selling. Okay, based on the color of this one dot here. Now watch when I zoom in. Okay, when I zoom in, see this is a pie display because it's all aggregated within one bigger dot. And that was the way we displayed it. And I zoom in, I'm going to be pulling apart each individual transaction. Okay, you can still see a pie display right here on this one. If I zoom in a little bit more, then I see every single transaction. Okay, so that's total volume. Now let's go through another option here. If we go back up here and we look at volume delta. Okay, this is the default display that we're showing. And volume delta, it, just so you know, it's not total volume. It is buy minus sell, right? But it still gives you the reference here, the dot is going to be one color or another, and that's it. All right, so it's either going to be green or red because it's buy minus sell. So let's say there's 5,000, or let's say there's 500 that trade that are buys, and there's 499 that are sells. Well, then it's going to show a green dot of just size 1, right? Because that is the delta. All right, so just so you understand the difference between the two. But the volume reference here is still the same. Okay, there's more selling here compared to buying. Right, so, and that's what we're looking for, is trying to understand who's in control and who's moving these markets. And the clarity with the volume delta is very nice. You can see them just hitting the bid here pretty hard, a little bit of a pause or pullback, and then hitting the bid hard again. Right, so the total volume might be a little harder to read. It's up to you, whatever you like to look at, it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's setting on the display. The size, this is very easy to understand. You can make the size bigger or smaller based on the slider here. You can also display it up here if you like. Okay, and you see if I move that slider, it also moves this slider down here. All right, so that's the slider on the toolbar or in the settings. The clustering, let's go over the clustering and what exactly is this. All right, well, so let's go through each one. We'll go through smart the last here. We'll go with none to begin with. Okay, so there's no clustering. Well, that's easy. So what's clustering? All right, so let's move on to the next one, by time. And we'll look at 1 minute is fine. If we maybe zoom in a little bit. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so now between each vertical dotted line, I have 1 minute here. Let's make the size bigger so we can see this. So on the vertical dotted line, since it's 1 minute divided up right now by 1 minute, you can see there's a dot at 1 minute. And that's it. It's showing all the volume between this last period here and this period here. And then display it here. Now, why is it off of best bid and offer? Okay, because it's showing the VWAP of this last minute of volume. So it's not just showing the last transaction and where it took place. We can see that here. Well, where was the overall volume here? Because it's going to have to be aggregated within this 1 minute period, and we're going to display it as a VWAP, and here it is right here. All right, so you can hover over again using this tool, and it will tell you the price as well, the price level, and you can see it's here at 42.32. All right, so that's the clustering by time. Okay, let's go on to the next one, by volume. Okay, this one is a lot of traders don't care about time. Market's all about events. Therefore, they're looking at volume clustered by the amount of volume. So if we put in 500, for example, okay, let's zoom out a little bit. So every time 500 transact, start a new period. And when that transacts, end that period and start a new period. Okay, this is a really good way of starting to understand where heavy volume is happening. Let's make the dot size a little bit lower, and let's zoom out a little bit more. All right, so yeah, here we have it. You know, all of the dots are going to be the basically the same size. They have to be. I'm sorry, they don't have to be, and here's why. They can aggregate together. Right, so here's two that traded very, very quickly, but they can aggregate together. If we hover over this, now you can see it's for a volume of 1,000. Right, so it's still going to be a 500 period followed by another 500 period, but they will aggregate together. Okay, so here this should be 1,500 now, And it is. If I hover over it, you can see it down here. All right, so the volume dots are all the same size, but you'll just see some sort of aggregation when you start to zoom in and contract that timeline. Okay, all right. And this gives you a good feel here. We can lower the size a little bit of what's going on with the these periods here of 500. Right, so a lot of traders like this kind of view. So let's move on to the next one, is this smart clustering. Okay, so we can now cover this one, because basically the smart clustering is a combination of time and volume. Okay, and there's a slider here. I use the smart clustering. It is the default. In fact, if we go to the default right here, you'll see it. The smart clustering is right in the middle. The size is this size. It's 3D bubbles and volume delta, and transparency is about 50%. Right, so that's the but the clustering default is right in the middle here for smart. Okay, now the smart clustering, it's just that combination. It has like a sphere of influence around it based on time and volume. It's kind of like water droplets. When a water droplet gets rather close to another one, it kind of sucks it in and makes it into a bigger water droplet. All right, so the same thing will kind of happen here. When we zoom out, we start to pull those away, but we zoom back in, you'll see how these kind of act like it starts to come around this by time and volume. It's kind of like gravity of a planet or something, and then it starts to aggregate them together. All right, that's what the clustering does. Okay, so that should simplify it to take away some of those smaller transactions, because those can be rather meaningless. We're looking for the overall, right, who's really in control and moving this market, and the clustering can do a nice job there. All right, so now I actually like to bring down the clustering. I like it on just a little bit, but I like to look at all the transactions. The reason that I prefer that kind of setting is because I want to see this steady, strong movement away from an area. It's something that I studied, or I look at. That's the way that I trade. Okay, a lot of traders, they don't worry about that whatsoever. So they like lots of clustering. So if we go up to studies configuration and bring that clustering up even higher, so they just want to see like those big transactions, and that's it, right? That strong, consistent move. Although it's not bad in here on this one, they're just more worried about the larger transactions. Okay, now look what happens if I go all the way to the right hand side. I only get one dot, and again, it is off of best bid and offer, and it's on the VWAP here. Okay, so it's clustered everything, one big sphere of influence, into this one big dot here. All right, so anyway, that's the way the clustering works. Let me know if you have any questions on the clustering here. I will move on to the next one. Okay, in fact, I may, if I move this all the way back, even on smart here, all the way back to 0, basically it means clustering is off. Okay, that's the way that the slider will work here for smart. It's the same as none, basically. Okay, inherit bars and apply to bars. All right, so we can go over that in a minute, but I want to move on to the next one. This is minimum displayed volume. What this is showing in here is a little bit complex. We'll go over the next one, and then we'll come back to it. Minimum trade size. This is very simple to understand. All right, so this is your block trades. So let's look at 100 in here for the S&P. Okay, and let's see how many we get. Now we might have to zoom out to find some here. Okay, but we're talking about one transaction. That's for 100. Okay, 100 lots, and you can see there's not so many, and in fact most of them happened here, or all of, no, even there's some pre-market or London exchange here. I mean, these are clearly larger players. They have to be. Who in here trades 100 lots at a clip? All right, so now that's great. it gives us insight to the larger players. However, in this trading environment that is just dominated by algorithms for the last 20 or 30 years, it's just this markets are dominated by the bots. So instead of a cluster or a large trade going through, a block trade of 100, and it really kind of shows your hand. What a lot of traders will do instead now is they'll break up that 100 lot trade into 100 different orders for one lot each. Okay, and it will trade rather quickly in succession. So that's the way that they can kind of hide a bit more of their hand. So that's why we came up with this setting here, minimum displayed volume. So let's bring this all the way back down to 1, the trade size, and let me show you how this works here with minimum displayed volume. Okay, so the minimum displayed volume is able to show those transactions that happen very, very quickly. So that 100 lot that traded 100 times for one lot. Right now, how do we do that? Okay, so we basically, if we zoom in here, and we'll put in 100. All right, so let me, we might have to put in more, actually. Okay. All right. So if we can see a couple transactions in here. Now, this means that in this dot here, there was 100 at minimum, okay, could be more, that traded here very, very quickly. That's what it means, right? And we've captured it here with this setting. If you hover over it, you can see that this is for 100. This one here is more though, okay, because there's more actually in this little area here. It was 179. So the minimum cutoff is 100. Okay, so display 100 or greater. Now this is based on your zoom level. Okay, it sounds kind of funny, but here's what's going on. Within a very small time frame, 100 traded. Now, what's the smallest that we can display on the screen? It would be 1 pixel. So within this 1 pixel here, we have 100 that traded or more. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of screen you have. We're still basing it off of 1 pixel size. Right, so if I zoom in though, okay, now my screen is going to expand, or my view is going to expand, and it won't be 1 pixel any longer. Once it's not 1 pixel any longer, that will not display. Okay, now if I come back in here, now watch, I'll come back in here, and let's bring this down a little bit. Okay, to a certain size. Maybe it was a block trade, who knows? But it should display in here, and there it is. Okay, so we had to go down to like 55. Okay, and was it a red dot? Yeah, it was a red dot to begin with. So we got to go down even more to get a feel for exactly what kind of happened in here, right? As you can see, we're getting there. So let's go back to 100 just to make the point though. All right, so right now I zoomed in, and now it's that event that took place is over more than 1 pixel, so it doesn't display. I've got to zoom out and contract the screen in order for that to display now. All right, so and once it does display, it's going to give me the overall buy minus sell, all right, for the delta here. We can go to total volume as well, and in fact total volume, you can see there's a difference here between total volume and volume delta. Okay, so total volume, because there's a lot more transactions, it's not just buy minus sell, so it's still working here with the volume delta. All right, so just keep that in mind as you're going through this, that it's still buy minus sell, but it's still 100 in a very, very quick succession here. All right, so that's the way this works. Now, a lot of professional traders really like this filter. And they're looking at higher time frames, and they just don't want to be bothered by all of this volume. So what they'll do is maybe they'll look at a certain kind of zoom level, and then they'll look at their display here and find something that kind of works for the day. All right, so let's put in 5,000. Okay, and nothing's being displayed. Okay, so let's try 2,500. Okay, nothing being displayed. All right, let's go down to, well, actually, let's just go down to 500 and see what happens here. Okay, now we have a lot. Okay, maybe that's too much in this area in here. So let's go down, let's go up a bit more. We'll go to 75 or 750. Okay, that's not bad, right? I filtered out a lot of the volume. And now is it helping me though? Is it giving me shape of an understanding of what's going on within this time frame here? Now we got a lot of data in here, and you can see there's not a whole lot of transactions. We have our 9:30 cash open right around here, and you can see that heavy selling coming in, some buying coming in. This was actually during the webinar, and we were kind of looking to see if we get a deeper pullback here. Didn't happen. We went lower, and then finally it came back up, and we got our deeper, not really deeper pullback, just kind of back to the same area basically, and sellers coming in again. All right, so for example, if you're not seeing with a setting like this, maybe you're just sitting back looking at the bigger picture, and then waiting for more buyers to start to come in at these higher levels. If you're going to get that retracement. Now you got some, but you didn't get any follow through, right? So, and you got some here, but no follow through again. In fact, look at this kind of exhaustion area in here. There's no more buying in this filter, and we see more sellers here. Okay, so sellers basically are in control in this entire day here, but they're also in control in this period. Okay, we don't see any buying coming back up into here. So this filter might be something that you like. Play around with it. Now, if you zoom in, okay, this is going to become less useful. You're going to have to reset it. So you have to come back up here and then put in maybe 250, okay, and see what that looks like. Yeah, so that helps, right? Not bad for this view. Here's a little bit of buying in here, but sellers still remain in control. Right, so now we'd be looking for that big sell dot down here, and understand what if the sellers can move this lower. Okay, all right, so lots of questions in here. That is correct, Edison. The volume dots are represent the executed market orders. That is correct. All right, that's important to understand. No over-the-counter connection here to the penny stocks or anything over the counter. Over the counter, there's really no order book, right? We're looking for an exchange. We're looking for an order book and also the volume that is accurate. There's lots of information on API if you go to bookmap.com. And you'll click on the more button and you'll find information there about API. All right. Okay. All right. Any questions so far on the volume dots? Let me go to special events in Discord. No, looks like we're good. Okay. Now those are the main filters for the volume. So now let's start to apply that. And we're first going to apply it to the volume bars down below. So let's go over those settings here. You see them here, right? Now this is for the clustering that you're going to be applying it. All right, so inherit from bars. All right, well, or apply to bars. So this smart clustering, let's go with time. Our 1 minute here. Let's actually make it 15 minutes. Okay, and now let's apply it to our bars. There we go. Okay, it's been applied to our bars down below. So now this should align with this here, and it does. Okay, so that's a quick way to have the same clustering here on your bars, or you can inherit from bars. So let's just go to our bar settings here, and let's do well, we'll do 2 minutes instead, right? Okay, so by time, and let's go back to our volume dots. Now you can see the inherit from dots or apply to dots here. So you have the same two choices, but now we're going to inherit from the bars, and now we should look at 2 minutes of a clustering here. All right, and we do. Okay, so let's go back to the smart clustering, apply to the bars, and that's that. Okay. Now the volume bars, we got to go over that. This is really simple and straightforward. It's the same settings in here. You can look at total volume. I do need to cover this on total volume. There is some confusion with this from some traders. Look at the red is always on the bottom here. Okay, it's not that there's always more buying in here. That's not the case at all. It's just showing you it's always red on the bottom, and then in addition to that, on top is the buying. So that's the way we're displaying it here, right, for the bars. All right, so that's that. And let's go back to the bar settings here. That's for the total volume. You can look at a solid here like this, or you can look at a gradation. Okay, or you can let's go back to solid. You can look at your total volume, or you can move it to delta. Now personally I like to match it to exactly what I see in the bars, and I do apply the same setting, okay, from my volume bars to my volume dots, or vice versa. All right, so that's that. Okay, so let's start to go through some practical uses here. How to read the aggressors in here, and what this means, and we can start to get also into volume profiles, etc. But the practical uses. Okay, so we know that the aggressor is the one that moves the price. So starting to read the volume in here in context. And the first level to look at in terms of context is the price structure. So when you start to look at your candlesticks, or you start to look at, let's just take the volume dots off for a moment here. Okay, when you start to look at just, this is your price structure. Okay, and this is where you can start to mark up areas. Okay, so consolidation, breakdown, consolidation, breakdown, consolidation, breakout, back to the range, and a breakdown. All right, so this market's been kind of all over the place today, with a strong move in the opening to the downside, and that still remains in effect. All right, now what we want to understand, though, in context of these areas here by the price structure, is where the transaction is taking place. That's going to give us a lot of insight. Okay, so whatever it is that you're looking at for your trading, maybe you're looking at some sort of filter like this, maybe you're not. Right, so let's let's use the filter here and at this zoom rate here, and see what we can read. It's maybe a little much still, right? So let's just filter it again. I think we had 750, right? And that gave us a pretty good view. Yeah, that's a little scant here. Let's try 500. Yeah, it's not bad. Maybe a little bit lower. We can try 400. All right. It's not bad. All right, so let's read this here. And let's put this context together with the structures that we just kind of outlined. Well, up here, this is the open, some back and forth, and then the sellers come in and move it away. They move it away on pretty powerful volume. And here, this was during the webinar, it was a mess. It was just a mess. And look at the read here in terms of the volume. Now, the funny thing is like on these kind of higher or these highs here, there's nothing trading up there. Okay, so we were looking for that. In fact, in this little area here and then up here, we were looking for that. And then the possible pullback into some of these areas. Just a pullback on these time frames. Now, this view is actually giving us a little more insight. Because now it's easy. It's always easy in hindsight, of course. But, you know, we don't see much trading up here. Basically, in this view and in this setting, that's basically exhaustion. So here we have transactions down below that, looking for our sellers to try to drive this away, and they do. And we come back up here. We don't see sellers here. Overall, we don't see buyers up here. On the overall delta, we see sellers. Okay. Now, this one's kind of crazy to read in here. Why did it pop up like this? We see sellers here, a few buyers in here. We'd have to maybe zoom in a little closer and maybe redo the setting to get more insight from that. Okay, but this is not bad right now, what we see here right now. Sellers move it away from this on heavy sell volume, very little buying. Again, heavy sell volume. I'm looking for another red dot here to give us insight to the breakdown to the lows and maybe even lower. All right, because we're down here, price is trading down here. And now we're just looking for some insight from the volume. All right, so we might have to play around with the setting. Maybe this isn't really helping us much. So let's go back and let's start to read the context here. Okay, maybe 400 isn't so good. Let's try 300. Still nothing. 200. Okay. Not bad. Let's try 250 though. Try to filter out a little bit more. All right, not bad. Yeah, we need to see these sellers come here right now, and then we can get the move to the lows here. Okay, and then maybe break the lows. So let's see it. We're down here now. See how this can also help with exhaustion? There's our dot. It just presented. All right, and now it just went away. That's because of the delta in here. Now since it's buy minus sell, now there's some buyers in here. Okay, so it's not displaying. Okay, so as we're going lower, we found some big sellers, but we're finding a few buyers in here now too. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit more, or zoom in. Now, still not really helpful. Okay, but beautiful exhaustion here back to this area. You know, that's great. Now, again, like if we don't see that those sellers show up in here, and we start to come back in and we see a green dot up here or up here, that's telling us something. Back to the swing, back to the top of the range, maybe back to this range, top of this range here. Okay, so that would be like a false breakdown. So reading and starting to understand the exhaustion in here, or the lack of dots, trying to get some understanding from that. So what my goal here was to go through to show you all these different settings and then the practical applications of them. Right now we took the heat map off just so we can understand a bit better just the volume. And then we have this context in here using these different settings. So like I said, it's up to you. But we have lots of flexibility, and we're very feature rich in here with Bookmap. Now, we've had these settings for a long time. So whatever it is you prefer, play around with it until you find something that you like. All right. Let's see here. right? So actually, look at that. Buyers. Okay, interesting. Let's see them get back to the top of this range here. Okay, let's see if they can do it. Looks pretty good. I mean, we're getting buyers here. Okay, this broke down, but we're getting buyers here at this area here. Great. Then they should be able to come back into the top of this little range here. Okay, that would be that's like a 3 or 4 point move. And we'll probably just have to wait forever for this to unfold. But anyway, like different markets, obviously you're going to have different settings. You're going to have to play around with it to find what works for you. All right. Let's see if I can think of, can I think of anything else? Or if you guys have any questions, happy to go through it here. Wall Street Warlord. Here, let me show you where to go. You're talking more about the API and all of that. So go to bookmap.com. Okay, click on the more button here, and then you could either go to API here, or you can go to our knowledge base. Let's go to API. It takes you to the same place. Okay, you're in there. Our Bookmap knowledge base here. And there's a user guide, there's the add-ons, and now we're in the Java API section. There's also JavaScript API. So, you know, we're in this section here. You can see the breakdown of the on the right-hand side, the API modules. Okay, it just scrolls you down the page basically. So this is the place to go. Okay, all the links that you may require for more information will be on this page. And that'll initiate the thread for you. All right. Okay. Now, let's take a look here between we're just reading the volume here. We don't have the heat map on, and we just wanted to go through the different settings for the volume dots. But let's add a little bit more in here now. Let's add the heat map. Okay, and let's actually dim that a little bit, and start to understand context of volume also within the auction. Okay, the supply and the demand, the buyers and sellers in here, and what is going on. Okay, so we were looking for this scenario of false breakdown, buyers here, and then a move back up to this top of the range here as a potential scenario. Okay, now, so we know there's buyers here. There's liquidity here. Look at high liquidity in here on the bid, starting to come in. Okay, not a whole lot of buyers though. Now again, we're going to have to wait for quite a bit of buying here to get that insight. And giving us actually some good information. No buyers, lack of buyers again on a retest. So now we're back down here. In fact, at this point here, since it tried twice, now we can get maybe a red dot down here. And if we do, then I'd be looking for the retest down to lows here. Okay, around 27.5 or so. And you see what's happening. We're just going back and forth in here right now. Okay, but confirmation with a bigger dot in here. Look at the offer now. Okay, let's see if do we get our red dot here? Not yet. Okay, any more questions in here? Let's see. All right, no more questions. Just back and forth in here. Still just trying to gain some insight in here. and nothing to do. Nothing to do until we get that insight. Okay, we get our green dot up here. It's looking really good for coming back up to the top of the range here. If we come back down here and we get our red dot, it looks really good for going back down to the low, and then also trend continuation. How do you compare retest versus the same price? Retest of the area here. So like selling down here, lack of selling down here on the retest. Okay, now this is maybe a little too extreme of a setting here, right? Because we're heavy selling, nothing. Okay, but really nothing until we got a buy dot here. Okay, so again, it's just is understanding, and by what I meant by retest in here was this little area here. We came here and retested here, and we didn't find any buyers, so we're open to sellers here. If we get enough, we should drop. Okay, now we're open to buyers here as well. If we get enough, then we're looking for the move to the top of the range here, and maybe even higher. Okay, our sellers down here, bottom of this swing here, bottom of the day, down here around 26. Okay, our low of the day. Yes, this will be recorded and up on YouTube. All right, so I think that's about it. There's not too much else to go through. I mean, there's all sorts of contextual things to go through. I would recommend that you definitely play around with these different settings, see what works for you, and stick with that. Okay, that's going to be the most helpful. So I'll take all of these off now. Now I'm back to all the volume, and let's make the dot size a little bit lower. Okay, so now we're looking at quite a bit of volume. Right? We can zoom in and we can look at that same context. Now, since it's the aggressor that moves price, there can be some odd situations where we can actually go higher on lower volume, but in general, it is the buy volume that is moving price higher. How to go higher on less volume, less buy volume, is very simply just liquidity is moved, pulled and moved higher, and a little bit of buying can easily move price higher. It's like a low volume pullback. All right, and we talked a lot today about trap volume, so I'm going to avoid talking about trap volume in this webinar, but this would be kind of an example of it down in here, where not a bad example at all, in fact, because we have lower move here, sellers here. Look where the trap is set. Okay, we covered this at length today because we had a lot of them, and now buyers are back up above it. Okay, now we have another one right here. Okay, see the buying coming in, okay, and now the sellers are down below it. Okay, so now are they going to let these guys out, or did they get stopped out? Okay, well, let's see. Sellers here, then if we get enough here, then I'm looking for the move back down to here or here, just by the context of understanding where those sellers might be trapped, where these buyers might be trapped, okay, and where they're going to have to puke, where they're going to be stopped out, right? And the stop run, and we're looking for it. So let's see if we get it here, and this would be with the trend. So looking for sellers, looking for the move lower into these areas here. All right, and now we're going through this exercise in here with just volume and price action, and that's it. Okay, we don't see the other side of the trade. We don't know if there's a lot of liquidity down here absorbing a lot of that selling. Okay, so that's where that third context with the heat map, and that's what we covered in the previous video, was to go through the heat map in detail. All right, now the volume, since we know that it's the aggressors that move price, okay, for the most part, that those special circumstances where you can go higher on less volume. We're not going to dive into that. Instead, we're going to dive into what we typically see is volume and heavy volume, moving it away from an area quickly. Okay, trapping people up in here and moving it away quickly here and getting them to force them to sell, because everyone that bought in here is going to be forced to sell. Okay, and then God, we see this in the crypto markets all the time with the liquidation indicator. You'll see it come down here, and then you'll see even a retest in here, and there's no more liquidations. It goes to the other side and liquidates there. Okay, so here we go. This was what we just talked about, and the move down here. Now we're here, and let's see if we can now go to lower lows. Okay, so the question is, what are we looking for then down here? Okay, if we're looking for lower lows and we're in the trend and we want to see the trend continuation, what are we looking for? Many stops, that's true, but we're basically looking in a flush, yeah, but we're basically looking for something more. I mean, something simpler. We're just looking for sellers, red dots. Okay, they could be stops, they might not be, they will likely be, but yeah, we're just looking for the sellers. Captain Price, yeah, exactly. So here they are, see, okay, and let's see them continue. Okay, now that's going to be our stop run. Now we can open up our stops and icebergs here. There's our stop run. Okay, now, and this is where we get into a lot of nuances in the order flow here, because we have a stop run here. But stop run, what does that really mean? Like it typically means these are people exiting a position, not buying. Okay, if that's the case, then a rotation back up, and again, this volume in here and defining this volume in here, right, especially this little area in here, it's really not real. Okay, this is real buying. Okay, so they're moving it right back into the range here. Okay, maybe back up to here. Okay, they've already moved it to the bottom here already. All right, so many different things to start to understand in here, also with stops and also icebergs, but understanding like the condition of the orders or the traders involved here. Now we're back down here. Okay, so do we get many stops here? No. So these sellers are still in it. Okay, well, we know that a lot of these are stops, but these are new sellers now coming in. All right, so sellers should be able to drop it lower then. There's enough of them. Okay, and we go down to lows of the day here. All right, guys. Well, we talked a lot about the different settings and the different ways of looking at volume and applying to bars, etc. And then we started to get into practical applications of it. There are many practical applications of understanding volume. It's one of the most studied or analyzed elements in the markets. Okay, now it is very, very important, but there also is the other side of the trade, and that is very important to understand too. It's all context, really understanding the condition of the participants or their positions or their actions, and learning from it, from their actions. That's where we can get some insight, and that's what reading order flow is all about. So we'll do another one. If you like this video, let me know. Hit the like button there. We'll get into some more of these videos in the afternoon, and these have been based on your suggestions. So if you have, just keep the chat coming. Let us know what you're interested in. The heat map's been really popular. We can do more on the heat map if you want. Now we're covering volume dots in here, and have looked very little to the heat map, just understanding the transactions and the participants that are committed in here with their market buy and sell orders. within the price structure. Yep, we'll add in the comments there what you want. We are reading the comments, and this is based off of someone's comment in Discord. Okay, thanks for coming, everybody, and we will have a good weekend, and we'll catch up with you on Monday. Okay, yeah, take care. Bye bye.